Kaapi, Kashaya, and a personal interaction with the yogi. And we have with us for today's interaction, Sri Venkatesh Murthy ji. We welcome Venkatesh Murthy ji, who is the founder of Youth for Seva, a wonderful service organization, which is doing wonderful work among the youth of this country. And almost they have now a chapter in every city, I would say, every state, I would say today. That extent, they are doing a wonderful work. And you may think we have started the series on yoga. So we were seeing different people from different yoga lineage and different yoga traditions. We were seeing somebody from the Ashtanga Yoga, Shivananda Yoga, and all those. So why is Venkatesh Murthy ji here, right? And as we all know, yoga is not only restricted to the physical asanas or pranayama. We have the four streams of yoga: the Jnana Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Karma Yoga. And definitely Seva is a wonderful aspect of Karma Yoga. And I thought in this yoga day, the message of Karma Yoga, bringing yoga into action, should be very much there. And even otherwise, Venkatesh Murthy ji is a very regular yoga practitioner. And I'm so glad to say that he has taken his yoga inspiration from my mentor, Master Sri Raghuram ji. And therefore, we are Guru Bhais in that way also. Right. So he and his whole family, they have been practicing yoga in all its aspects. Particularly, but today we'll be focusing on this aspect of yoga in action through Seva, which is Karma Yoga. And therefore, I thought it is very relevant to have Sri Venkatesh Murthy ji here. Venkatesh ji, welcome, Swagatam.
Thanks, Subbu ji. It's always enjoyable in your satsang. And I think e-satsang is also equally enjoyable.
So, in Kannada, if we say e-satsanga, andre this satsanga, exactly. So it becomes also the e-satsanga, the electronic satsanga. And I think a lot is happening nowadays. Even this evening, I just finished one satsanga where it was a yoga milan. Like we both are talking. Baba Ramdev from Haridwar and Sri Ravi Shankar ji from Kanakpura Road in Bangalore. Both were having a wonderful time, and watching that was, an experience for us who are watching that. So I'm so glad that this series, which we have started, Kaapi with a Yogi, have come across 15 episodes, and we have got very wonderful reception from the whole community of yoga teachers as well as practitioners, and all more people from world over are welcoming this community of yoga teachers and health practitioners, Ayurveda practitioners from Mauritius, who are very keenly every day, religiously watching this and sending me the feedback from Singapore, from Malaysia, and many parts of the US, and our own students from Vietnam and China also. And of course, I did not tell about the Indian friends. They're all very keenly watching and sharing their joy that it is giving them a lot of, it's almost like a course which is going on, 1st of June, what we started. So 15 episodes have become a wonderful learning for them. And we still have the next week, we have started the third Saptaha, 21 days of 3 Saptahs we are having. So from you today, we are starting a new, the third Saptaha, which is going to culminate with the interaction with Guruji, Dr. H.R. Nagendraji on 21st of June. So it is going so well. So thank you that you accepted our invitation and you have joined with us. I know you are quite busy nowadays with the COVID-19 situation. It has given time for others, but those who are in the Seva sector, there are, one way or other, you have been involved in the volunteering work. So there is no rest for you. And thank you that you have joined. For the benefit of the viewers who are watching today, Venkatesh ji is of course well known to all of us, but still to introduce him, Venkatesh ji is the founder and executive director of Youth for Seva, which is a forum to empower youth to become selfless change agents in the society. Venkatesh ji, after completing his engineering BTech in computer science, he had worked for a span of almost 15 years in India as well as in the US. And he came back to India and he was working in the company, which is I think it was EMC, where he worked. And that is when he took a full-time passion into Seva, and he started the Youth for Seva. Much before that, even while he was working abroad, he had taken a break of 2 years to work at West Indies, where he was interestingly working with children and youth, addressing the issue of teenage suicides among the Indian origin youth. So I think today, in this context, it is very relevant what has happened yesterday. So the work with Venkatesh has worked with Indian origin youth of teenage suicide is very relevant today. We will be talking about that also. And when he came back, we will ask him much more than I would say. Let us ask the story of Youth for Seva directly from Sri Venkatesh, how it started and how it has attained various milestones and what it is today. So with this, once again, let's get into the interaction with Venkatesh. I think usually I have been calling the session as Kaapi with YOGi, which means kashaya and a personal interaction with the yogi. It is not coffee. It is not coffee. It is Kaapi, because in the yoga community, as you know, many won't drink the coffee. Though I am a coffee yogi. I start my day with a cup of coffee, and it's a traditional Malnad coffee which I take. But many don't take. Therefore, I thought let me compromise, and call it as Kaapi. Whereas with Venkatesh, I'm sure it can be with coffee itself, because I have the pleasure of always having a cup of coffee with him. And thanks to our sister Parimalaji, who makes wonderful coffee and shares to both of us. And therefore, today I have even got coffee here. And when it comes to coffee, I remember, Venkatesh sharing his experience of having a cup of coffee. That is where the wonderful idea, the seed for YFS had come. So let's start from there. So how did it all happen? The idea of Youth for Seva came to you very first, Venkatesh.
Actually, in 2006, when I was still working in Boston, in USA, at that time, in the weekends, we used to go to bookshop, Barnes and Noble's bookshop. And inside the bookshop, there was Starbucks coffee shop.
Wow.
And usually I used to pick up a book and then drink coffee. And coincidentally, that Sunday, I picked up this book called Eighth Habit by Stephen Covey. And most people have heard about 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is the sequel to that, Eighth Habit.
Okay.
And I picked that book and I was sipping wonderful Starbucks coffee. And when I was reading the first chapter, which is about discovering the purpose of your life, I think that gave me so much clarity. And of course, coffee gave me that peace of mind. And then the book gave me the idea. And so that's when I started reflecting on what should I do when I go back to India. What are my strengths? What am I good at? And then I felt that because even in US, we had initiated Balagokulam program, and I had organized many Hindu heritage youth camps. And
you were part of the Seva International also there in the US.
Seva International, I was involved. So looking at all this combination, I had the gut feeling that, in India, large number of youth would like to do something for society, but there is no organized platform. Why I use the word organized platform is in US, I used to volunteer in public libraries. And on Saturdays, when I walked into public library, I said, I'm free on Saturdays and want to volunteer. The receptionist said, let me direct you to the volunteer manager. So that designation itself was something new to me. Public institutions having volunteer manager. Then I started reflecting that this is the missing link in India. That in our public hospitals, public schools, public libraries, there is no system of engaging community as volunteers. And it's not easy to fix the system right away. We thought we'll create a layer in between called Youth for Seva. This name also occurred to me in US itself, and I registered the domain also before coming here. And so that's how the story of Youth for Seva, or the genesis of Youth for Seva, with a cup of coffee. And of course, I should give credit to Stephen Covey also.
As they say, a lot can happen over a cup of coffee.
Yes.
I think if a few months back, if you would have had this interaction, and probably the coffee day owner, I think Sri Siddharth, who had to unfortunately end his life, would have listened to this, probably he would have been motivated, and that bad thing would not have happened, I wish. So that's so nice to know that. And came back to India, and you just started. So I'm sure it is not going to be that easy, though you have seen it very organized there in the US and having the volunteer manager and a kind of system which is there. So it would not have been easy to take this decision to start, because you have a family to take care, and you had to give your time equally to the family as well as to the Seva project what you are envisioning at the time. So how did you face these challenges in the initial time?
Actually, the first 1 year I was even doing the job also. I took transfer from EMC and came to here. So along with the job, I initiated Youth for Seva. Honestly, it was not very challenging because at that time the scale was also small. You are just initiating, and the work used to happen mostly in the weekends. And on weekdays, I used to take phone calls and that, but otherwise, most of the field work was happening in the weekends. And also, I had no idea of building a organization as such. We, in fact, Youth for Save as a trust was registered 5 years after we started the organization. Because my idea was just to create a platform where more and more people can join and different organizations can adopt this platform. But after 5 years, we realized that there is a lot of legal compliance involved. And without a registered trust, it won't happen. And so initially, it was not very challenging. But as the work grew, then it started demanding more and more time. First 1 year was not very demanding. And that's when in the second year, I decided to quit my job in 2008 because unless I give full time, I sense that this is not going to take off that easily. And I could see immense potential. Large number of youth were coming on board. And 2008 was also a recession year. And that year, many engineering graduates had campus placement, but their joining dates were all delayed by 6 months, 1 year. And that's when many of them wanted to volunteer for 6 months. And I felt if I don't have full time, then I really cannot coordinate the work. So that's when in 2008 I decided to quit. And in fact, when I initially quit the job, I thought I'll take break for 2 or 3 years. But the 2 or 3 years is still continuing, even after 12 years.
That's nice to know. But how did your family and all supported you for this? Because it's not going to be easy for everybody to accept such a change, to quit a job and then take up something like that. With, I'm sure it would have been with a lot of uncertainties at that time. So we thought now today, after years of work which you have done and the team which have developed, so there are a lot of support, the CSR support and all those things probably would have come eventually. But initially, it is not going to be that easy. And if you have been like a brahmachari like me, it is a different scenario. I remember that at that time itself, you were already married and you had a son. So how did you see the uncertainties to be managed?
One thing, Subbuji, is that I never plan very long term. I take 2 or 3 years window because I discussed with my family and felt, for the next 3 years at least, we don't have any problems. I have some cushion. We have own home and I had some savings from my work. So even though it was not like lifetime that we can manage with that savings, but I felt, okay, next 3 years at least we can lead a decent lifestyle. We don't have to compromise on our lifestyle. So that was the assurity for the family, and they were also equally supportive. Parimala, well, so she was also equally supportive. And even now, I always keep the options open. If there is a financial requirement, I'll get back to IT job sometime. Because at that time, I felt that this is the time when I have so much of energy and rigor that I should pursue my passion. Money I can always earn even later. So I think by God's grace, there has been good amount of support from the community and corporates, as you mentioned. So things have grown very organically. Many times people come under pressure because they make very long-term commitment. That life will remain like this, lifelong I will do. But I'm somebody who always keeps 3 years window. Next 3 years is what I plan and keep the options open. That way you don't have guilt feeling of even if you have to go back and do something else. So my approach has always been 3 years window. That's why I recommend even youngsters also. When you want to pursue passion, don't think that it's a lifelong commitment like sannyas diksha you are taking. Keep the options open. That way there is no burden on your head.
Very true. I think that is the right yogic attitude also, which even Krishna tells in the Gita and all those, to be in the present, take things as they come, face it, and then things will evolve as we go. If we have the right direction, then it will evolve as it goes. So over the years now, how do you see today the growth of Youth for Seva, its works? What are all the different operations that you are involved with? What are the number of projects you're handling, and what the number of chapters and number of volunteers? We would like to just get into some background of what in 2020 Youth for Seva is.
See, we have primary focus on volunteer engagement because our mission is that how do we enable a movement of volunteering? It's not to build an organization, but to facilitate a movement of youth volunteering, because volunteering is the first step where someone gets sensitized to the social needs without sacrificing everything. Out of that, a percentage of them, it's like a pyramid. Bottom, if 10 lakh people start volunteering, maybe 1,000 will become serious change agents in that. It's like 10,000 people going to primary school, one might do PhD. But all others are not waste. Everybody plays a supportive role in this. So that's our mission. So we have one vertical which is purely focused on volunteer engagement. We have weekend volunteers, and we have a lot of college students who come for internships now. See, compared to 13 years ago when we started Youth for Seva, today the entire system is very cooperative. I think we were there with the right idea at the right time. That's why we are actually flowing with the current. There is no resistance to this movement. Today, the education system like colleges, schools, corporates, everybody wants to volunteer now. So in fact, it's our management capability as to how much we can digest. So whereas when we started, it was not the case. We really had to convince the companies to send their employees to volunteer. I remember giving talks in many IT companies to motivate employees to volunteer. Same with colleges, is to go from college to college. And there was no policy at the corporate or college level. But today the atmosphere has changed. So with the changed ecosystem, our job has become easier. But at the same time, it has become so humongous also. Like recently, one engineering college came and said, we have 1,000 students in first year, and there is a mandate that all of them should volunteer 80 hours in the year. Now 80 hours into 1,000 students, 80,000 hours. What kind of work do you give them? And when it is mandated, half of them will not be interested because it is compulsory, they have to do it. So these are the challenges that we face. But coming to the spread of our work, this volunteer engagement, if you see, last year we have engaged more than 30,000 volunteers, and our work is spread in Karnataka, like Bangalore, Mandya, Mysore, Tumkur, Shirsi, Hubli, Belgaum, Bijapur, and also in other states, like we have in Chennai, and then Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, recently started in Nagpur, and then Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Haryana, Uttarakhand. So a lot of these places, Assam, these are some of the places where it has spread. But that is one vertical, engaging volunteers. Then we have another vertical for corporate engagements. This is where companies who have the mandate to spend 2% of their profit on the community development. Many of the companies have partnered with us. Through that, we actually take up rural area projects. Like we have adopted government schools in the rural areas for very comprehensive development, not just building infrastructures, but enhancing the learning levels so that the enrollment and students learning
when
level.
You say this corporates are partnering with you, is it not like that what they are supposed to do with their employees, they are just passing on the ball to you so that you do it and then they take the credit of it?
No. So there are two things in corporate engagement. One is the employee volunteering. Other is the funds they need to spend. In fact, the legal mandate is there only for the funds to be spent. There is no legal mandate for employees to volunteer. But many companies have it as a policy because they have found out that when employees volunteer, their value systems get altered. They become more sensitive. They become better team players. In fact, in Infosys, they even give paid sabbatical for up to 1 year for people to work with NGOs, because their experience is that when they come back, they're a different person altogether. They work very well in the teams and they adapt very well to situations. So there is a lot of learning in volunteering. That's why I always say that on one side we say youth for Seva, but it is also Seva for youth.
So in this, you have been working with the youth, which are the major strength of our nation, especially. So what do you think as the greatest strength of this community of youth?
See, this generation of youth, if you look at it, one of the biggest advantages that many of the urban youth have is they have very little family responsibility. See, if you look at my grandfather, he had 14 children to take care, one income. My father had 3 children to take care with one income. In our generation, we have usually 2 incomes and just 1 or 2 kids to take care. So today, those who are in college, they are the only child or just two children for their parents. And most parents have made their own financial security. So that way, the younger generation today have lots of financial freedom. Now, that said, this can be a blessing or it can be a curse. When you don't have responsibility, you don't have direction in life. Many times, this lack of responsibility raises very existential questions in youth's mind. What is the purpose of life? What am I doing? And they can get into depression also. When they don't get answers to this, they can take to drugs because they have money, no responsibility. That's a deadly combination. So I think it's very important to channelize that energy in the positive direction. That is one aspect. The strength, I would say, is that they have more financial freedom today and they have less job insecurity. See, 25 years back, when people used to graduate, there was job insecurity. Today, there are lots of opportunities. It is not just, somebody has to join government or public sector company and retire there. If you are creative, if you are talented, n number of avenues. And so those are the advantages. But also I see that today younger generation, they are a lot more creative in solving problems. Because I remember in Suratkal, when we were doing engineering, we were only 3 students who were doing volunteering work. We used to go to nearby villages and teach students. But today you go to any college, at least some 5-10% of the students are volunteering today. So that's the strength that they have. And the technology is another support that they all can leverage to spread the work. But that's the strength part of it. There are also weaknesses.
So I was about to ask that. So what do you see as a weakness in the generation of today's youngsters?
One of the weaknesses I would say is they're more about doing and less about being. When Swami Vivekananda said the whole of religion is about being good and doing good.
Be today, and make, as he said.
Exactly. Now, being good and doing good is the whole of religion, is one statement he has given. Today, there is a lot of rush to doing good. But being good is difficult for present generation.
Like just if I call WhatsApp, when we get a message, we just share it without forward. Even seeing now forward.
Not only that, for example, if I call for volunteers to volunteer in old age homes, everybody will come. But to take care of their own parents will be difficult. And if you call for volunteers to do health awareness programs in schools, many volunteers come. But if you ask them to do yoga every day and keep your own health, that is difficult. That's why I'm telling that the shift has been from being to doing. In the older generation, they were being good, but not doing so much good to outside. Today, it has reversed. I think we need to strike a delicate balance between the two.
And when we were seeing today's scenario, what has happened, yesterday, there is a young, film star who had committed suicide, and maybe a week back there was a young film star in Karnataka who had a cardiac problem or something at a very young age, and then he had to face the death. And if this is the scenario at the youngsters at this point of time, for whatsoever reason, the investigation has to happen for whatsoever reason. But we see that unfortunate end of life, has become the consequence of that. So at one side, if you see, as you said, they have all these things. They're very creative. Even the cine actor Sushant Singh Rajput yesterday, who committed suicide, his track has been very good. That he has been a very good academic student in his academic days with wonderful All India ranking, and he is an engineering graduate. And then he had taken interest in film industry and modeling and all those things, and he had done. And he had done very good positive movies also, like Dhoni and all those things. And there are many of our young people who are following them, keeping them as the heroes and ideals, and they are following that. So in this scenario, especially, you have worked among the youngsters in West Indies, the Indian origin youngsters at that time. Though of course it was years back, but still on that area of working with them over the suicidal rates and tendencies. So what is that you would like to convey? Why is this happening, and what could be the solution?
I think there is a fundamental defect in our understanding of life, because from childhood, we are bombarded with the message that life is competitive. World is very competitive. Whereas world is actually about cooperation. Life is not about competition. It's about cooperation. This message is not going to the children. From the school age, we are hammering their head that it's very competitive out there. If you opt out of competition, there is no competition. World can be very peacefully coexisting. And the second thing is, in the entire education system, there is no emphasis on emotion quotient development. Emotional strength is very weak right now. That's why, in fact, in Youth for Seva, we have a team called Doctors for Seva, where we are running adolescent awareness programs, where we take up topics like emotion management, relationship management, addictions and substance abuse, reproductive health. I think these topics have to become part of the mainstream education. But again, that should not become like an exam-oriented thing. That adds more pressure again. Rather, it should be like a life, giving values and perspectives about life. I think the root cause is the wrong perspective about life. That the world is competitive and you need to earn lots of money to be happy. So I think the focus on happiness has to come. In that way, I really appreciate Delhi government, which has introduced a module on happiness. In the schools, they have a module on happiness now. I think that's something that we need to introduce, happiness and yoga. All these things, yoga, when I said, it includes everything. Yoga is about being happy. So this has to become part of the school curriculum in a non-academic way, in an experiential way.
And I think if they have, for example, this lockdown, when it started for the past more than 2 months, I think more youngsters of this age group would have had a problem being at home, which they have never been. Most of the time they were spending outside, but comparative situation is better in India.
For parents also. So for parents also.
Parents as well, yes, true. In fact, the other day in the same series, we had a discussion with one of our yoga masters from Melbourne, Australia. He was telling that within this 2 months' time, the depression rate has increased a lot. And even among relations, the divorce rate has increased a lot, because earlier they were spending more time outside. They can spend little bit. But when they are together at family today, they are not able to cope up with each other. And then that is what is happening there. Whereas in India, of course, it is a different scenario among the family people. Definitely, we are all enjoying. They're having good times. Women's are experimenting with wonderful recipes a lot. And a lot of things, they have our own way of engaging ourselves. There are a lot of, I see people, families together, getting in Zoom from various places and doing a parayanam, shloka parayanam, conducting bhajan, satsang. This is Indian way of we are doing. But still the younger generation, even here, it could be even in India, they are finding difficult in this situation. I heard a few people were calling me, even some of the parents were calling, my son is finding so difficult. Initially, he was doing something or other. Now he's tempted more to go out. But we are not able to send them out because of the situation outside. So what do we do? How do we engage them? So, volunteering is one wonderful thing which, helps them to go and do it. But when situation like pandemic, when there is a lockdown, when people cannot go out and, involve in such things. So is there any other alternative way in doing, because yoga always tells us, the science of karma yoga tells us, kartum, akartum, anyata kartum. Kartum is to do or akartum is not to do. But can we do it in a different way? For example, we have been, when a yoga classes and everything, once it all stopped, immediately all, even big gurus, they all started their online satsangs and sessions. So we all followed. Yadyat acharati sreshtaha.
Right.
We have started all this online series and everything. So likewise, is there any other way during such situation that the volunteers could be engaged in different way, Venkatesh?
No, very much. In fact, at Youth for Seva, a lot of volunteering is happening in the virtual mode today. For example, there is a program going on about imparting employability skills to the college students. Those who are in final year or just graduated. For them, we are conducting online training about how to face interviews, how to write CV, how to upload in the right portals for the jobs, and how to improve your communication skills. And one is online training. Then we are attaching volunteer mentors who will work one-on-one with each of the students to rehearse with them, to practice. And lots of volunteers are working on this program, employability skills. Similarly, we are taking up audio recording project. We spoke to Rashtrotana Parishad, who have published many books for children in Bharat Bharati series. So they have given copyrights. They said you can convert all these books into audio books. So volunteers are sitting at home and recording these books, reading like story and then creating audio books. Now these audio books are helpful for the visually challenged students. Not only that, even others. See, we all love to listen these days rather than reading books. We are
reading
driving
habit is
and
coming down nowadays. No?
exactly reading habits are so we need to take knowledge to whatever way children are spending. So creating audiobooks is another activity that we have taken up, and similarly even coaching students, even school children, like scholarship exams they have to take. That also we are doing through the volunteers using simple WhatsApp video. There is no complex technology that we are using, and so there are many ways in which you can volunteer even virtually today. And another thing I always advise is everyone should develop some art expertise, because when you are alone, you know how to entertain yourself, whether it is singing, instrument, or craft work, drawing. People who have not learned any art feel bored very easily. I think from childhood we should insist that every child learns one or the other art form so that they know how to entertain themselves. Atmarati word that we use, one who can enjoy one's own company. Art is a great means towards that. So if you have free time even today, learn some art form. You can learn some new things. I think constantly learning also keeps the life active.
That's very true. But one more thing, what I see, with the advancement of generation today, the technology has developed. In those days, you learn for a long time to perform. A teacher of arts, especially Carnatic music or classical dance, would not let you just go and perform the very next day. Whereas today, with the technology, today a child goes and learns a song and for a dance, and tomorrow you can see it in the social media in Facebook, and it's getting circulated. And we want to encourage the young people, so we do it. But same time, that is where I see also a kind of a problem there, that when they don't have sometimes opportunities of exposing it or getting appreciated by other people, then that puts them into problem of depression and all those things also. I think this while it is important to imbibe talents and culture, at the same time, the too much of giving it performance oriented and social media sharing, it is also becoming a problem. I think. What do you say?
Now, as I mentioned, the whole thing is looked upon in the competitive spirit only. That when I posted my video, how many likes I got. When she posted, she got more likes.
Exactly.
And so this type of competitive mindset is what pushes people into performance at a premature stage. But you are very right. I think whenever you are doing sadhana, until you reach certain stage, you should not get into the performance mode right away. And especially children, they should be given time to actually develop, because once they're at some level and then get into performance, it will boost their confidence also. So, and their focus will be on sadhana, then practice. Practice and performance should not be mixed up at an early stage.
Unfortunately, even in the field of yoga, what we are working with, we see a lot of competitions being happening, even the season of yoga day. And now, earlier they used to at least organize direct competition where people go physically perform. So at least some amount of things there. Now with the virtual season which has started, so there are many organizations which have started competitions, online yoga competitions. And also even from the government side, they're encouraging people to post their videos of yoga more, share pictures and everything. Of course, awareness, it builds an awareness, definitely. But same time, they cannot think that, oh, I have achieved something, kind of thing. There are a lot more to achieve, sadhana and abhyasa. That is something very important. And one more important thing, what when we were talking about the corporate social responsibility, CSR, I think there should be one of the most fundamental social responsibilities, again, a CSR, which is citizen social responsibility. Especially in this situation. Now, see, for the past 2 months, we were following to great extent the measures which were required. But now I just happened to go to the road opposite to our Yogashala. For a long time, I have been always within the Lakshman Rekha or Modi Rekha. I have never crossed, And today I happened to go there just to a road opposite, and it took for me more than 20 minutes to come back because of traffic jam which has started in Bangalore now. So, what do you tell about this? That in what way that so Seva is not just what we go and do for others, what the self-discipline we have for our own practice, which is so. I think it is citizen to social responsibility also, which is important. So you being in this.
Definitely. Corporate social responsibility is a very tiny part of the society. There are very few corporates actually. but people are in large numbers. So unless there is individual or citizen social responsibility, no change can be seen. Otherwise, it will only be driven by projects. But the social change happens only when the individuals transform. So the focus has to be on that. That's why I use the word movement. When volunteering has to become movement, then it demands transformation from everyone within. That the moment you start doing awareness, then you also have to demonstrate that. So the transformation has to happen on a large scale, and individual social responsibility is the most important thing. Even in corporate, why we emphasize on employee volunteering piece, it is not just about getting some funds and running projects. Every individual in the corporate must become responsible. Leadership must become responsible. That's why I always say that it is not about running programs under corporate social responsibility, but how do you become socially responsible corporate? Every action you do, can you think what is its impact on the society? Can you look at your own ecosystem, your own housekeeping staff? Are you taking care of them? Your own security guards in the company. Have you ever checked who are there in the families? Because one company, when they approached us that they want to sponsor scholarship for some students, I asked them, have you ever checked your own security guards and housekeeping staff? What are their children doing? And when they checked, actually 15 students we got from their own ecosystem.
Wow.
So I think we all have to look at our own ecosystem. Like I give example from our own apartment. 3 years back, I think one of our security guards is from Assam. He came and asked me, sir, I heard that you are doing some NGO work. My son has come back from Assam, and last 6 months he has not gone to school. I asked, like, why he has not gone to school? Then he said, I don't know which school take. They're all Kannada medium schools, government schools here, and he cannot read Kannada. Then I took him to the Uttarali government school near our house. Then they said there is English medium school also in government. It's not all Kannada medium. But this knowledge was not there with the person. So we took this boy there, and without any question being asked, the school admitted him. He didn't have Aadhaar card. The school only gave the letter to get the Aadhaar card. School principal was so cooperative, and now he is in 10th standard. So many times we have to look around in our ecosystem and see who are the vulnerable people. Whether the maid who comes, or the security guard, or the lady who delivers flowers or milk. Talk to them and find out. That's when, with the eyes open, we need to walk around. I always remember Swami Vivekananda telling some disciple that when he said, I closed all the doors, sat for meditations, I could not see God. And Swamiji said, you do exactly opposite. Open all the doors, go out and walk around in the streets with an open eye. See who is in distress. Serve them as God. I think that approach, if we can take, then the true meaning of Seva will be reflected in each and every action of ours.
Very good. In fact, when this pandemic situation started, Corona, COVID-19 started, so we had appeal from the PM and all state chief ministers, PM Care Fund and all those things. So many were immediately they were doing. But before that, did we pay to our own servant maids who couldn't come to our house and do the thing? In fact, I would also say, even for example, the small things like the classes, what we were going, yoga class, for example, it all got stopped, and then now we have huge community of yoga teachers who are depending on the fees component for their living also. It was not the scenario, 10 years back. Yoga was very much part of the Seva mechanism which was there, and anybody who would take into yoga, either they're full-time sannyasi or a prachara kind of person who would do it, or they would be volunteering sometime, like they have some other profession to do. They are doctors, and then also they do 1 hour of yoga class. The teachers or government employees, they would do some 1 hour or 2 hours of yoga class. Whereas over the years now, with the professional courses getting started more in yoga, that's one good scenario where we see a lot of organized professional courses. We have the university and many academic bodies, even in the US, the Yoga Alliance, and a lot of things which have come, just promoting yoga in a professional way. So a lot of people are depending on this for their living. From the way you moved from IT to the Seva sector, to volunteering, there are many who move from IT to YT, which is yoga training and teaching. So they are depending on this. And now when this kind of, and then again, this has been a very unorganized, though the spread of yoga is very good, encouraging, Even in the situation today, right from the PM, everybody speaks, you do yoga and yoga can benefit you is what they say. But same time, there is a community of people who are affected a lot. Yoga teachers community, they are affected a lot because of this situation. I would, I had even people who were calling me, like some of the teachers to say, sir, I've already paid a package for 5 months or 3 months, but now that the classes are not happening, would you do a refund? Yes, of course. There could be somebody who's really, that money matters to them. They have, in fact, for example, from our yoga center, we did a survey, identified, some of them, the students who are coming to our center to do the yoga course. So they would have paid the fee in advance, but with this, they may not be able to manage their own requirements. So if we can give back the remaining after what classes have happened, if we give back, if that could have been helpful to them, definitely I don't mind doing it. But there are people just like that, because they cannot come for the classes anymore. They had demanded back, the fee should be refunded. There are people who also took care same time, who said, sir, we are not going to come for the class, but we know that you have to take care of yourself. So we have the Guru Dakshina, which is important. So they volunteer.
See, the profession like yoga teaching can at least be done virtually, online. But look at professions like barber, haircut.
Yeah.
Many people are afraid to go there, even now. Even though lockdown is open, but the people don't want
growing.
So, what I would say is that even if you give your own haircut, go and give 100 rupees to that barber, because it belongs to it. Just because you are doing it yourself, his livelihood should not be taken away. I think that sensitivity is the key. When you start looking at everyone in the divine perspective, then you start to understand the needs of the people. And what you respond naturally, that is what Seva is all about.
So, when we talk about this, for example, me as a person, when I was a fresh engineering graduate at that time, so I wanted to, because of the readings of Swami Vivekananda's books and influenced by various masters, I want to get into something full-time into Seva, but not go into the IT or anything like that. That was not my thing. But same time, parents would not immediately agree for it and all those things. And somehow, of course, I had a very strong spiritual urge at the time background, and I could continue even now, which I'm continuing. So many people today, they have a passion to do volunteering, full-time volunteering, Seva to do full-time. They want to do it in whatever way, in their own respects, maybe in education or rural development or in spiritual part of it or yoga. They want to do it. But, at the same time, they still have to take care of their own, personal needs to some extent. So in this challenging situation between the passion, what they want to do, and then the individual challenges, what they have, mainly, I think the main challenge is financial challenge today. So how do you suggest how they can manage this?
Today we are living in an ecosystem where there is a lot of support. If you have your own idea to pursue in the social sector, there are many incubation centers and there are many fellowships available. And even if you take a full-time role in some NGOs, there is a decent honorarium or salary paid to the people. It is not like 20-30 years back, where social worker means he gets paid nothing. I think there are good opportunities today. And many times, like in Youth for Seva, I have seen youngsters who worked here for 3-4 years. They have moved on to take CSR lead roles in many companies. So there are opportunities with this exposure. So we are in much better shape, I would say, compared to 10-15 years back. And NGOs also pay a decent salary to them. And especially if you have your own idea, your own passion, there are many foundations which are providing fellowships. I think if anyone is interested, I'll be very happy to guide them. At Youth for Seva itself, we have a fellowship called Warriors of Change Fellowship. So if somebody has own idea and wants to pursue, we provide all the training and support system for them. So I think we are in the right times. If you have your own idea and passion for social service, you really don't have to struggle hard. It can be a good support system right now. I think that's the message I want to give.
I know that Venkatesh ji had been kind of mentoring many such people who want to do that, and also many NGOs, organizations, small scale, whatever they're trying to do. Overall, the organization as such, Youth for Seva, also Venkatesh ji in his individual capacity has been mentoring a lot of such people who want to be the social change agents. And I'm sure people are watching this, in case that they have such ideas, they can always approach and take care of that. So one more very important thing I see when we are in the path of volunteering and rather seva, when we start doing, initially, yes, when we have the highest of ideal, the enthusiasm, the passion, we do. And as we do some good work, when we see that people recognize that good work, there is always, as you said, when you have the right idea, the right intention, definitely support comes from the society and people accept it, appreciate, and come and hold hands. And as we do, sometimes what happens is this, the sense of a pride, which is important, of course, as I did this, I did this, that is important. I remember even in Youth for Seva, you offer them sometimes, the kind of, when they complete a number of hours, kind of an appreciation certificate.
Certificate,
and and all those things. So that is there. So, but when we think of the spiritual perspective of seva, what we say is that you should not have that attachment to what you do. Sangha rahitaha, that we need to do it. And is it not contradicting between the spiritual ideal of seva and what, in terms of the NGOs volunteering and all those things, where it is in fact appreciated the more, and then once it has been, the appreciation is happening, people also have a seeking for this appreciation. Oh, I do more and more, then I can get a certificate, I can get this honor. And that is adding sometimes, if you see many students abroad come and do here kind of internship and thing, because it adds to their academic credits also.
Right. So in fact, this is the dilemma that the idea of giving certificate, on one hand, as I said, for the beginners, it's a good encouragement. In fact, if you come to our annual day, in every speech on annual day, I make it a point to tell that the certificate is not something that you volunteer for. And in fact, many senior volunteers don't care for that also, that, it's only student community which actually values the certificate so much. Most of the professionals who are volunteering, for them, the certificate doesn't mean much. They already have jobs. Whereas college students, when they're in the volunteering space, they need certificates so that when they apply for higher studies, it can help. So otherwise, certificate, I also agree that it's not important, and it's only an encouragement in the initial stage. Like a child, when it's starting to crawl or walk, then you show some things to incentivize. But afterward, that should be dropped. You should walk for the joy of walking. I think seva should be like that. We should do seva just for the sheer joy of serving it. And in fact, one level later, we need to not do even for joy. We should serve out of joy. You should experience joy within. Because even when you start doing volunteering, because I get satisfaction, I feel happy. Many times there are situations where it is not satisfying. Like you go to a slum area to teach children. Children don't come. So it's not, you should not think that the moment you start doing seva, everybody will appreciate. There is resistance. Some political leader will come and say, why are you doing health camp in our slum without my permission? So it can be frustrating. So I think even that aspect also we need to drop eventually, that doing for the sake of joy. We should experience joy within. Of course, that's a very high ideal, but I think that should be our ideal, that we should have joy within, and then seva should be a natural expression of that.
How do you manage your such emotions when it comes? Kind of sense of pride, and then eventually that can build up as a kind of ego that I did this, kind of this when we take this, when we talk of responsibility, so that also can become into a kind of an attachment, a sense of attachment, and hoping for more such want of appreciation will all happen.
In fact, that's a very serious danger. In fact, we have gone through that also. Because see, it varies from person to
many
person.
I sorry to interrupt, I see sometimes being in the kind of wellness space, especially when I have worked with Arogya Dama at SVasa with Dr. Nagaratna and all, we have many such social workers. Sometimes they come for their treatment, come with a lot of health issues, they come. And as we in the yogic understanding through scriptures, what we say, the reason for the vyadi, the physical psychosomatic ailment, the somatic is happening because of the psychic problem which is happening there. So what would be there for them? They don't have much of family. They don't have much of the otherwise samsaric tapatrayas and all those things. Many of them have been full-time dedicated, bachelors and dedicated to the society, the core they are doing, no doubt. But still they have some, the physical strain that they have taken because they...
Now, I'll tell you, see, even when you are doing any seva work, organizational work, Even I myself have gone through that. There are various areas, pitfalls that we need to watch out for. See, pride is one factor, because with some understanding we can come out of that pride. But the bigger thing is the burden that you feel that I am doing it, the doership. A lot of things are dependent on me. I think I myself have gone through that phase. When the organization is growing, suddenly you feel overwhelming, that there is so much to do. How will it manage? How can I manage all these things? This type of excessive ownership, that actually builds the stress. In fact, my mentor Raghuramji has been very helpful when I had had to go through that phase. And not only that, other thing is like in YFS I have experienced, when two or three people, key people, when they move out of the organization, I was very sad. I was feeling like, "Arey, I was hoping that they will continue long term with YFS, and they moved out, and you feel bad about it." That's when I asked Raghuramji also. See, he asked me, "Do you know what is permanent in the organization and what is not permanent?" And I said, "Cause is permanent, people are impermanent." So expecting permanency from things which are by nature impermanent is the cause of sorrow, suffering. This can happen even in voluntary work. When you're building organization, you think that people are permanent. The moment it's occurred to me that people are not permanent, by nature they are impermanent, then I focused more on building the structure, system, and process. That way, organization is not dependent on individuals. So that's how we have to mature. I think having great mentors, spiritual mentors, is the key, even in this volunteering space also, so that you develop the right understanding and try to come out of this sense of burden, doership, and expectations and fears. All those things, I think it needs guidance. As you said, it's not about just family and other things. Organization is also a big family, and you have very big responsibility when you run organizations. Like right now, I'm seeing many NGOs, they're struggling for funds. After COVID-19, many companies said we have given funds to PM cares, and there is no fund to be given for other NGOs. And these are the challenging times for the leadership. We don't want to let go people who are dependent on youth for Seva. We don't want to lose anybody. And so those are the things that can build stress for the leadership team in the NGOs also. I think right spiritual guidance is the key.
That's what I was about to ask it. So you have been somebody who had equally having kind of spiritual acquaintances, satsangs, and being with gurus and mentors and that kind of thing. So how do you think that the spiritual background, kind of at least the backing, is important in Seva sector and volunteering? Do you think it's important? Because there are many NGOs who just look at this as a work, as a kind of a project. They do it, that's it. They may not be having a spiritual kind of support. Whereas there are completely spiritual organizations which are doing this, like Ramakrishna Mission doing it, or we have the other spiritual organizations which are doing it. So you are kind of a volunteering organization, but I see that equally a spiritual mentorship. Often on you invite people who are spiritually oriented to orient the volunteers also, kind of give whenever you have kind of a freshers orientation, all those things also, these are given. So how important is for somebody who want to do a social volunteering, a Seva, to have a spiritual backup?
I think it's extremely important. Otherwise, with all good intentions, we may be doing more damage than any good if we don't have the right perspective, right spiritual grounding. Because if you look at general NGO sector, they look at development simply as enhancing somebody's income levels, economic empowerment as a development. But focusing only on that leads to many other problems. And unless you are conscious of it, so that when you are doing one good thing, ensure that the collateral damage is minimized. And also, like in our programs, even when we go and teach spoken English in government schools, we also focus on values. That we do Seva Divas, we do Guru Vandana programs, and we instill values in the students, because it is not compartmentalized things. When children are given academic education, this emotional health, and then the values, those are all part of this. Comprehensive perspective comes when you have the spiritual grounding. Understand what is the meaning of life or what is happiness. So on one hand, for the work that you do also, for it to be more comprehensive, less damaging, unintentional damaging, then you need understanding. Second, for your own well-being. as you are doing it, as I mentioned, there are many, what I would say, pollutions that we can create in our mind of excessive sense of ownership or about pride and even competition. People even NGOs say that NGO is growing big, this NGO is. Ultimately, it's a community that has to benefit, and we all have to work together. So to get those right perspectives, I think it's important. And I would say it's a lot more important. If somebody is not doing any social work, it is not very important for him to have spiritual background. But if you are doing social work, you better have it. Otherwise, you cause more damage than good for yourself and to the society.
Exactly. So that is so nice to hear from you. And you have been also a practitioner of yoga. I remember those days, even at the early stage of YFS inceptions, you used to come and stay there at Prashanti Kutiram with Raghurabji, having, of course, yoga and also a lot of discussion, a lot more with a cup of coffee. So a lot of discussion and getting this conceptual understanding. So that is important. So how important do you think is the aspect of yoga in Seva and also the component of Seva in yoga? So both are there. So how do you think these two aspects?
No, I think the first part I covered fairly, in the sense for people who are doing Seva, one is for their own well-being, it's extremely important. And second thing is, when I say yoga, it's not just about pranayama and yoga. So that is for our well-being. We need to do it and even teach others also. When you're teaching English or whatever subject in the slum area or government school, make it a part of it. A 10 minutes module you incorporate, so that you are adding more value to the community that you are working with. And the other dimension that you mentioned, for people who are into yoga, those who are professional yoga teachers, for them also it's very important to have a bent of seva, in the sense not to become too commercially oriented and too calculative. And some part of their time, at least, many of them have some free time when they're freelancing or working as consultants. In their free time, can they identify one place where they do it for free? Whether it is a slum area, orphanage, old age home, somewhere where it's simply their contribution, their seva. I think both sides, it's extremely important. In fact, they are not two different things. As you said, seva is nothing but part of karma yoga. Right understanding and right perspective will blend the two very well.
Very true. In fact, I sometimes have some of the yoga teachers, the young professional yoga teachers, sometimes they come to me and say, bhaiya, there's a free class happening in our street, the temple they're doing. That has become a kind of a nuisance for the class I'm doing. Hundreds of people are going there and I'm not getting, I have invested a lot for the studio. I have done a lot for the course and they're not people coming. I would rather tell them, in fact, you should be thankful to them, because it is because of them that they have been doing for years that today yoga is spread far and wide.
Right.
The concept of yoga as a professional education and as a career, as a profession, is developed within 2 decades time at the most. So otherwise it is, it was only the seva aspect of yoga which was there. Thanks to all great, yoga masters, I'll always say it could be Baba Ramdev or, any other yoga gurus to that extent, though their organization may flourish in various things, but as individuals they remain still as sannyasis. It is not that what they take, so they are helping for a larger community to grow and get benefited. So it is, when you consider this is because of the free component, the seva aspect which is involved in yoga, which has kept the light even until today, that those many people, how many people dedicatedly they have been doing. Some of them as volunteers, they go for work otherwise, as I said in the beginning, but morning and evening they take a class. Some of them have been full-time voluntary yoga teachers, at least after their retirement. Many have taken up this. Many housewives, today who are otherwise, they have the family responsibility. Just 1 or 2 hours they are volunteering. They come and do a seva thing. So, for example, for me here, when I'm running the Adhyatma Yoga Center, which is just across the temple, we have Rakikoda temple just opposite to me, where every day, morning and evening, there is a free yoga class which happen. And not less than 100, 150 people every day participate there. So some people, and it's just across. So people ask me, how do you manage this crisis? It's not a crisis. I say we complement each other. When somebody comes to, I have a fees definitely for all the classes which we run here. We do, of course, a different charity activity. We collaborate with various NGOs and do that is a different part. but there are specific structured programs which we run, for which we have the fee component added to it. When somebody comes and tells that, we can't afford the fee for it, it is so costly, I tell them, don't worry. Just opposite, we have the yoga center, which is being run for charity. And no way the quality is different. The teachers are much seniors. I was their student, in fact. So my teachers are teaching there. I would only take you. In fact, they take a registration fee of 100. But if you tell my name, they would not take even that 100. So you better go and join there. And
also,
in there, what
see, also we should understand that Seva is not dependent whether just to take fees or not. Seva is an attitude, is a state of mind. Even when you, like a doctor, even when the doctor takes some money, a doctor who has the Seva bhav works very differently than a doctor who does just for money. That's why taking money or not taking money is not what distinguishes whether it is Seva or not. It is your approach to the people you are working with. Do you really serve them with love? Do you really have concern for them? Are you really invested in their well-being? The moment you do that, see, taking money or not taking money, even in Youth for Seva, I said, those who work full time, we do pay salary, right? But that does not mean that what they are doing is not Seva. So I think that Seva is a state of mind. Work, serving with love, compassion, concern, care, and fully involved in their lives. That I'm really as treating them as part of my family. I think that attitude, if we develop, then this taking fee or not taking fee, that is not really central in my mind.
That is very true. In fact, that is where I just wanted to discuss with you this aspect also, because many yoga people today, they though they are doing wonderful work, but sometimes always they have this dichotomy within them. So that is where I tell them that the people who are doing a charity yoga and when you are doing a professional yoga, they can go hand in hand with a kind of ecosystem where we have a collaboration with all the things which is going on. And also, as rightly you said, there are many avenues where yoga can be extended still. That is where I think the community of yoga teachers, always I have been discussing with you for at least the past 2 years. Yeah. So it's it's here again. So I'm thinking that we need to bring a community of yoga people together to do this kind of a seva. As you rightly said, no matter whether there is dakshina involved or not, that is the secondary. But with the right attitude of seva bhavana, that where we can do. So where do you think, as more still there is a need for yoga teachers can go and volunteer? They don't have to do anything else. The same yoga what they are professionally qualified. So that if they teach, it is good if a yoga teacher go and participate in a Swachh Bharat campaign and also clean the streets. Well and good. It is very good if yoga teacher goes and does some kind of otherwise teaching a subject, or even do a counseling in some areas where required, is well and good. Even if you cannot do any of those, the same yoga what you are.
Yoga, yeah. See, I would say, see, yoga itself, you can do it as a free service in many places. One, I would say, is in the government schools itself, where really the poorest of the poor families come to the government schools. And especially, as I mentioned, with the adolescent age group, high schools, if you can help them develop that emotional intelligence, balance, both physically, pranically, and emotionally, that is one area. And second, with senior citizens, there are many senior citizens groups, and that is one place where we can offer. And also even in hospitals, the many places they need simple pranayama and this type of services we can provide. And even government hospitals, for example, I have not seen yoga centers in government hospitals and old age homes, and even in slum areas. Slum areas are the other. We have many partner NGOs who are working very actively in slums. They can facilitate. See, if you can work together, they will do the groundwork of identifying the people who need service, a place for doing. And as a yoga teacher, you can come and volunteer. These are some of the places where we can volunteer as yoga teachers.
Even some of our teachers have taken a bold step in going to jails to teach them yoga there.
Yeah, very good. Prisons are an important place, actually.
Prisons and juvenile, wards which are homes which are there. So that is something where they are there. I have a team of teachers who go to the cancer hospital, Kidwai and other places are there.
Correct.
So they do there, and I think this aspect we can bring more and more, because now what the focus on yoga field education is what is going on. Somebody do a yoga course, In fact, my parents had sent me to do a yoga instructor's course when I was still an engineering student. So when we had a holiday of 1 or 2 months, they just sent me, just go and do a course. So I think, and at the time it was not, they were not sure that I'm going to become a full-time yoga teacher in after they felt, why did we send him there? So it was, we should have been completed the engineering only properly, and he could have taken this. Why did we send them there?
Parents want their son to be good, but not too good.
Yeah. So, but what I'm trying to say, so just doing, learning yoga today, but today when somebody go and do a yoga course, immediately, how I can go back and start making a career in it, and how I can go and develop something. So that is where today, I think, even in the situation, now the pandemic situation, COVID, when it started, the yoga field, which is kind of very unorganized, there are many yoga teachers who find it, you said virtual classes, online classes, you can start. But now that is the opportunity that has also become a challenge for many people. They are not able to do because of family, many women, especially schools have started online classes for children. So who is going to have the mobile and, how to do it? They are finding difficult. So online classes, they are not able to do it also. And many still have this kind of stigma in the mind that yoga is something which I have to go and do. The teachers are ready to teach, students are not ready to take it.
You have to go and physically correct the postures.
Then only they feel that otherwise, there was literally a man who kind of had a big, he argued with saying, so what difference it make? You are saying you are giving a live online class, but I have the YouTube video of same you available on the YouTube. So I would watch it and do. Why the hell I pay you the fees? So this is kind of situation which they are feeling. So I think that, what has happened is that promising opportunities which were there one side in yoga field, which is giving good opportunities, but in such uncertain situation, many are coming to kind of a shackled state. So rather the encouragement in people in the yoga, you do learn, and yoga for your application in life is one thing first. Correct. Second, no matter whether you are doing something, as you even initially you did not take the risk of giving up your job and coming. As it evolved, eventually your time was wanted, so you gave up and started here.
Correct.
That is what many have been doing. In fact, 3 days back we had Rajendra, who is working in Australia at Siemens, who is doing, actually is the way he's working in yoga field looks like he's a full-time yoga teacher. But he for more than 15 years, ever since he got into yoga, he's still holding his work there, doing it and teaching yoga. And not only in Melbourne, but going around the globe to different places, parallelly is engaging his time in doing that. And the thing is, as you rightly said, whatever fees he gets, dakshina he's getting. And he comes to India and has involved in a lot of service works with traditional gurukulas and ashrams and all those things, and he is using it for a good cause also. So even this is a way where your teachers in yoga can definitely contribute. So just I would like to add this, that one is in their own way, individual capacity, yoga teachers can take up some seva activities where if you spend 4 or 5 hours of yoga classes for your earning, which is very important, essential component. It is one of the purushartha, the artha, which is important. You do it, but also a seva, a dharma, which you can do even an hour a day or weekly, sometime which you can do. Now, of course, maybe online you can do something, but eventually when the situation comes back to normalcy, you can go back to places like schools and all those hospitals and old age homes we thought we can do, or in NGOs like this, when Youth for Seva has had wonderful different avenues to do. That's where I have been always talking with Venkateshji that we should have like Youth for Seva, doctors for Seva, teachers for Seva, everything. So we should also have a yogis for Seva there. So all the yoga people should get engaged in such a nice way, because there's a system which has already been created for this. As rightly, the very first thought of it came to you because you saw a volunteer manager at the library there at the US. So now you have created the same here, and with this, when we go together, I think it can bring a wonderful.
I think it will be a wonderful collaboration if a lot of yoga teachers can come together and document their free time. When do they have free time, and then we can work together, map them to different places, which is closer to their home. We can do that definitely.
In fact, I was rather surprised when this time when many people for the yoga day had been inviting me to come and conduct, not to go. In fact, in one place through online webinars and yoga sessions when we call. So people have been telling me that, sorry, sir, this time we cannot pay anything. I said, this time whatever, I have never charged anything for what we would do. But they said, no, sir, last time some other yogacharya came for yoga day, especially he said, this is what it is. This is a fee for yoga day and for me to come and conduct a class. So that kind of situation is going. So it's good, but same time we need to make a balance between the professional yoga and volunteerism in yoga. And that is where I think that we should all, the community of yoga teachers, all of us should come together and work along with Youth for Seva and other organizations. It need not be one organization, everywhere, wherever there is
Youth
possible.
for Seva itself is an aggregator. At Youth for Seva, we connect to many NGOs. As I said, we don't work directly. We work with Rashtrotthana Parishad, Abhyudaya, Keshav Seva Samiti, Hindu Seva Pratishtana. So YFS is like a Setu bridge that we are connecting many NGOs, communities, and then the volunteers, corporates, NGOs, everybody together. I think we should make the difference.
And so I think that is a wonderful step that we have taken this year for the yoga day. So I invite all the yoga teachers to think of this, the path of karma yoga, which is not just working but action in relaxation, which is action in seva, or seva in action, yoga in action. That is more important. And I'm sure with this, though we are, of course, we are beyond time. Last thing I would like to ask Venkatesh, I know that he is a wonderful singer and who can sing beautifully. So on this occasion, I would like to ask him to just sing for us some lines. Probably Venkatesh usually sings very well from the Mankutimana Kagga also.
You want me to sing some Kagga?
Yeah, please.
ಘನತತ್ವವೊಂದಕ್ಕೆ ದಿನರಾತ್ರಿ ಮನಸೋತು ನೆನೆಯದಿನ್ನೊಂದನೆಲ್ಲವ ನೀಡುತ್ತದರ ಅನುಸಂಧಿಯಲಿ ಜೀವ ಭಾರವನು ಮರೆಯುವುದು ಹನುಮಂತನುಪದೇಶ ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ ಹನುಮಂತನುಪದೇಶ ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ.
Thank you, Venkatesh, for this wonderful rendering of the Kagga. I think he's having a technical problem there. It's stuck. Venkatesh is in Samadhi.
Yeah, I think there's some technical problem. What is?
Yes, my dear Yoga Mitras, my dear friends. So I think we had a wonderful discussion to know the challenges, the opportunities, the strength of volunteerism, the strength of seva, what we can do, and especially in the field of yoga, yoga is seva. In fact, it is not seva in yoga. Yoga is seva. So we need to understand this aspect, this component, and take this aspect more and more ahead. And this yoga day, IDY 2020, brought wonderful opportunities for all of us to do. You don't have to even travel somewhere, go somewhere and do it. Wherever we stay at home, we can reach out to more people. So please, everybody, I want all yoga teachers to come out where you go and where you stay at home, but reach out virtually through various places and do wonderful seva through the yoga activities, what we can do. And if we all document that, a lot of wonderful activities which are happening, but if we bring it all together and document, I think we can show the world that the community of yoga is not just today commercial, but a lot of seva is wonderful, which is happening. That is the real sense of karma yoga that we can project to the world as our contribution from the community of yoga teachers and the yoga volunteers. Thank you all so much for being with us in this wonderful session of Kaapi with the Yogi. And thanks, Venkatesh, for joining with us in spite of your wonderful time.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. And tomorrow we are going to have a wonderful session on Swami Vivekananda's concept of yoga. We have Swami Daya Deepananji from Ramakrishna Mission, Haridwar. He is a medical qualified doctor who is wonderfully engaged in a lot of seva activities. And he's a sannyasi from the Ramakrishna Mission from Haridwar, Ramakrishna Math. And he's going to bring us a lot of insights from Swami Vivekananda's perspective of yoga and how we apply that in today's contemporary world. So please join us tomorrow. Thank you all so much. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.